Devin Booker finally took the lid off the basket in New Orleans with a 52-point performance on Monday night. That only poses more questions. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, what can the Suns expect from Book the rest of the way? More of that or more of what we saw before? We'll give you the answer. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons, a writer over at Dime Magazine, the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts. And I also create written and video content for the Locked On Suns Insider community, which you can sign up for at the link in the show description below. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Wednesday. Happy Suns game day, a home game for the first time in a long time. Wherever you're finding us, thank you for being here. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe. We are free and available everywhere, including YouTube. So just hit that button, get a new show in your feed every single Monday through Friday. Become an everydayer and get locked onto the Phoenix Suns all season long and beyond. Today's episode, looking at Devin Booker to start, and we'll get into Mat Ishbia and this homestand. But Devin Booker's season has been very confusing. I was the hater, and I'll just come out and say it, right? Who made the case against Book being an all-star. That was me. I'm stupid. Whatever, I'll take all of it. But now we are coming off of a stretch where, okay, Book did have 36 in a pretty solid performance individually against the Spurs, but that was a loss that they shouldn't have lost. Other than that, I guess he was good in both Spurs games. Other than that, you've been seeing a pretty inconsistent guy, and I think particularly the concern from Suns fans was his three ball. He had a good game against the Hawks in that capacity, but in that game was 4 of 7 from 2, nothing elite there, and that three-point shot was kind of the only thing he had going, only 2 assists, and then in a bunch of other games, 1 of 7, 1 of 8, 2 of 6, 3 of 10 from 3. So he breaks the seal on all of that, finally gets 8 of 16 from deep to go in against the Pelicans, and 9 assists and only 3 turnovers. So that is kind of the up and down we've seen from Book since he returned from the 4-game absence he had from the ankle sprain. You look back further, there have been 62-point games this season. There have also been 2 separate, really only 1 separate 8-point game, a 10-point game on low efficiency. We have had games from Book this year of 7 turnovers, of multiple, 3 different ones of 6 turnovers. So the highs have been very high, but there have also been a lot of lows and a lot of curious performances. That was the case that I had against Book from an all-star standpoint. Obviously, the team success was not fully his fault, but wasn't really there. And the defense, I think, for him, it's been a disappointing year on that end. But let's move off of just the bad, because again, the guy just scored 52. The guy has seemingly gotten back on track. He is healthy. He's also on track to potentially actually get to 65 games and become eligible for All-NBA, which did not seem likely when he sprained that ankle a little bit ago. So this is not doom and gloom. This is not the end of the world. The question is, what version of Book are the Suns going to get? Are they going to get the guy who is taking and making a lot of threes? Are they going to get the guy who is, more of a table setter? Are they going to get a version who plays fast, a version who plays slow? Can he buckle down on defense for playoff series, consecutively? I think these are all questions. He's going to be very good. He's had an incredibly efficient season, for sure. But what version of Book are the Suns going to get? I think what this Pelicans game showed me more than anything is, and I will say, what this Pelicans game showed me more than anything is that it really is all still about balance for this Suns team. Book did not take that many shots on his way to 52 points. It was just driven by such efficiency and a lot of threes and a decent amount of free throws that he just piled them on. But he only took 28 shots. Durant took 19, Nurkic took 11, Allen and Beal each took 8, Gordon took 7. So Book took about less than a third of the Suns' total shots in this game. He also did get a number of assists, and in the second half, made the right play. Kevin Durant was largely an off-ball guy throughout all of this game. They had some moments where they tried to get him mismatches, and, even early on when he was making threes, that was a concerted effort to get those shots for him, but he was not really featured with the ball in his hands. Beal, a lot of games, is going to be kind of a third scorer, playmaker, defensive guy. I think the version of the Suns, of Book that the Suns are going to get is he needs to be hyper efficient on the shots that he does take. But he should not be dominating it too much or forcing it. And the mentality that Frank Vogel has had with this team all season is probably the one he needs to embrace, right? They are they all have a score first mindset, and they use the gravity that comes from when they are aggressive and when they do get into the teeth of the defense to then get the ball moving, get the assists up, and ideally generate some open threes. And I would say the defense has been better since coming back from the ankle sprain and just the embarrassing losses they've suffered. I think he's kind of realized he needs to step up. And as far as the playmaking goes, I trust that it will be there. I mean, I think Book and Beal and Durant can all make the passes that they need to make. That's never really been my concern. So when I kind of boil it down that way, Book's mindset doesn't need to be much different from a lot of point guards in the NBA these days. Use the threat of your own scoring to open up opportunities for your teammates, play with good tempo, emphasize the three ball, compete on defense, and make good decisions. I think the Suns need less from him on defense than we might have thought. I think the development of Grayson Allen and having guys like O'Neal and Gordon to be kind of 3-and-D types of players, I thought they were going to put a lot on him. Maybe it's even less than I thought. But the name of the game is being efficient with the reps he does get and having that mindset of aggressive and then look to pass. If he can do all of that, I think we will see more games like last night. Now, does he make 19 of his 28 shots every time? No, but if he can get up even close to double-digit threes, make 50% of his shots, and get somewhere around 9 assists, they're getting everything they need. So last night doesn't need to be a sign of a million more big, huge games. It just needs to be a sign of the mentality and the efficiency that Book has to have. Next, another odd, questionable, difficult Suns story plopped onto the table on Tuesday, courtesy of both Baxter Holmes of ESPN and Pablo Torre of Meadowlark Media, looking into what Mat Ishbia has been up to at his other company. I'll give you my thoughts on that whole situation and why it's not outside of the ordinary in pro sports coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by eBay Motors, my favorite place to go looking for car parts because they have everything you could possibly want, and that's their winning formula. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive, and eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performances. Whether that is a supercharger, a roof rack, exhaust kit, LED headlights, or anything else, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Keeping it rolling, let's look at the fairly big, interactive, deeply researched piece by a investigative journalism outfit called Hunterbrook. The authors are Matthew Termini, Sam Kopelman, William Cohan, and Grace Scullion, I believe is the name. And basically what they found is a leaked voicemail, some in-person stories, some primary sources that were able to talk about working with Ishbia and United Wholesale Mortgage, which is his company that he got rich from. His father's company originally, and he took it over and really blew it up over the course of 10 years. I mean, blew it up in terms of made it really big. It is now the biggest wholesale mortgage company in the country in terms of deals done. And this article goes into how he went about doing that and basically underlined the fact that being the company that has the most favorable relationships with these independent brokers who do business through his company but don't work for his company, that doing the most deals, period, that making the most money off of a mortgage, I guess you could make the case it does not always have to come through unseemly means. But given the way that the business is structured, what it means to be the best at this business is unethical at best and potentially fraudulent, as this article kind of hints at worst. Now, here's the deal. I read this article. I listened to Pablo Torre's interview with the gentleman at the center of it who authored it. And I just don't feel comfortable necessarily navigating the ins and outs of the finance side. I don't even own a home, okay? Like, I don't want to pretend to be a source of authority. What I will take issue with, to a degree, is, and not even an issue, right? But some of the clips that have gone viral on social media and whatnot, I'll read this clip, this quotation from the end of the kind of intro portion of the investigation, and this speaks to some of what those clips got at. Hunterbrook Media's editorial board believes that UWM has potentially committed fraud, would likely lose business and gain on sale margin if brokers fulfilled their fiduciary duties, meaning, this is my words, finding the best rate for a mortgage that favors the client as best as possible, not just going straight to UWM and locking clients into a higher rate that takes more money out of their pocket in order to profit from it. Back to the quote from the editorial board, and could face material, legal, and regulatory consequences from civil, state, and federal accountability. UWM's contracts with its credit lenders, contracts with its mortgage purchasers like Fannie and Freddie, and the CEOs, that's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and the CEO's ownership of an NBA team, which was reportedly collateralized by billions of dollars in UWMC shares, may also be at risk, Hunterbrook Media believes. Hunterbrook Media also does not view UWM's large dividend as sustainable, particularly in light of the company's net loss last year. Due to this editorial opinion with Compliance Review, Hunterbrook Media provided the article to its investment affiliate. They went short on UW stock and purchased derivatives, on and on and on. But obviously the NBA team part of this is what matters the most. And that's where we will go now. That idea, right, that the ownership of the team may be at risk, given that the fraudulently, as this article outlines, the revenue to be fraudulently acquired, fraudulently generated, if federal bodies were to take action against UWM because of the way that it worked with independent brokers to lock clients into unfavorable, not negotiated or bartered upon rates for their mortgages, that the wealth of Ishbia, the money that he used to lock in the purchase that he's obviously using to fund the business, could go under. I don't know. Sure, that's scary. That doesn't sound great. But where I'm uncertain, and obviously, we'll see how this plays out. My very unprofessional opinion is within this industry, I find it hard to believe that this would not be fairly common practice. That is not to let it off the hook. That is to say that I think a lot of businesses that are basically used to issue lines of credit or kind of financially subsidize people's purchases or their livelihood in some way, shape, or form, insure them and take money from. I think we all know that's a little scummy. Maybe we all look at it as a fact of life. I'm sure an economist would tell me, hey, you're not getting a house unless something like this exists. You're in a much worse situation if there's no forms of insurance on this and that. Fair. I don't necessarily act as if, as an NBA podcast host, I know what's better for the financial sector. However, I would find it hard to believe that this is an exception. Baxter Holmes' piece, which also came out today, outlines this rivalry with David, with the Cavaliers owner, whose name is Dan Gilbert, and they both are in this industry together. I'm not accusing Rocket Mortgage of anything, Quicken Loans, or any of these other places of similar behavior. All I'm saying is that it would not surprise me if a similar digging into those companies showed equally bad things. There was a clip that surfaced, a report from Bloomberg shortly after Ishbia bought the team, maybe summer of last year, that talked about things like allegations of cocaine use and general buffoonery on the part of the male mortgage brokers and a, can't F with me type of attitude and just being kind of dirtbags. Some other more extreme things as well in there. And that came and went. I'm not saying, I'm sure there's investigations from the company. There was some kind of legal action going on. Point is, this is what this all is about. So far be it for me to predict the outcome of any sort of federal government action against Ishbia. But you look even beyond this, right? The NBA has owners who are involved with, in the case of Tom Gores, profiting off of private prisons. There are people who, in the case of James Dolan, have been involved allegedly. There have been articles written that include them in heinous allegations of, impropriety with women, and far worse, there are people who derived their wealth from Walmart, which has a whole history of breaking down small businesses in local communities, and do they pay their employees what they should? And there was controversies over selling guns when we've had shooting. I personally am not so galled by what Ishbia is alleged to have done that it puts him in a special camp separate and apart from the numerous billionaires who acquired their wealth in exploitative industries up and down every major American sports league. That doesn't let him off the hook, but that is why you will not ever, one time, find me playing cheerleader for any owner. It is nice to have the team you cover, the team you care about, the team in your community, an owner who spends, an owner who has the wealth to go out in the community and do things, to treat their employees better, to spend on the team and try to field a winner. Of course, I love all of it. But these people all do this stuff. And to me, rather than being some sort of exception or a scandal, let it play its course. If he is found to have done things that are illegal and fraudulent, we may have a bigger conversation on our hands. But as far as my response to this, doesn't surprise me. And I would even say I expected something like this, given the context, the history, and what's going on up and down the corporate world. Closing out the show with a preview of the Suns' 4-game homestand, what to expect, what's on the line, what matchups am I looking out for, all coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by Amazon Fire TV, bringing you tons of live sports, analysis, studio stuff, good for any sports fan. Fire TV, your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis, and more. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with your smart TV, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into any TV and gives you access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as, again, free and live television, including the opening weekend of baseball, opening week of baseball, college basketball tournaments, and more. Fire TV also recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, including the Locked On Podcast Network, as well as most of the big pro leagues and college conferences. Fire TV channels let you dive into the game's analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the world of sports, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on your Fire TV and Alexa devices. Trust us, it's not just the great Locked On content, it's much more. Learn more by visiting Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, let's close out the show here. No easy way to transition from mortgage broker world to this, but nevertheless, I do think the 4 home games the Suns have are hugely important games. They can win any game, they can lose any game. We know that. So right now, this is on Tuesday night. By the way, if you want daily updates on the standings and the games that are going to impact the standings, you can sign up at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSuns or go to the link in the show description below and click there. Then you join the Locked On Suns Insiders, where I'm giving you the daily breakdown. The Suns are 7th in the West. The Pelicans do not play on Tuesday night. The Mavericks do play on Tuesday night against the Golden State Warriors, so we'll see how that fares. But everything is on the table still. The Pelicans game is going to be huge. The Kings game is going to be huge. But every game is basically a must-win from here on out. If the Suns show up with the level of defensive intensity that they did against the Pelicans and play with their heads screwed on, they will have as good of a chance of anybody to get to 6 and avoid the play-in. But here's what I'm looking at specifically. And it is the 2 matchups that we saw the longest to go. All right? Which is the Clippers and the Wolves. The Suns haven't played the Wolves since November. I believe the Clippers was either late December or early January. So we're 3 months to 5 months from the last time we saw the teams match up. Now, the first Minnesota game, I feel pretty comfortable saying Cat will not be playing. That's on Friday of this week. So that is an advantage. I think so long as the Suns can score on Minnesota, which I feel good about them doing, they should be able to win that game. I don't think Minnesota can score well enough to keep up with the Suns, but at the same time, Anthony Edwards is at a different level. They have good wing defenders. I just feel like if the Suns can move the ball, utilize Nurkic in ways that are effective to get Gobert out of the action, whether that's using Nurkic as a playmaker on the perimeter, whether that is using Nurkic as a screener and creating separation that way and not having to worry about Gobert. The Wolves just do not have enough defensive personnel to make it happen, right? You're talking about, Jaden McDaniels having to do a really great job on Durant one-on-one. You're talking about guys needing to switch. You're talking about Ant probably needing to buckle down and guard a Booker or a Beal. Not to mention the three-point shooting advantage the Suns would have. That should be a win. We'll talk about the Cat game to close out the year once we get closer, but that one I feel decently about. It's at home, everything else. They're all at home. The Cavs game, to me, the Suns just blew out the Cavs, right? And they have Mitchell back, but frankly, I'm not sure that makes them a lot better. That should be a win. So they should be able to win the next 2 games. They have a good track record against those teams. They have clear advantages. They should be able to do it. Now, the Pelicans, I think that game was close. I'm not sure about Ingram's status. It wasn't. The Suns got out to a 20-plus point lead, but it got close at the end. It got within 7, I believe, and you had Devin Booker making 19 of 28 shots. So I would not overlook that. I do feel like the Pelicans can keep up from a three-point shooting standpoint. If CJ McCollum has a better game in particular, I can see that being close. It's a midday game. It's a team you just saw. It's not quite, got to beat the same team twice type of thing like we saw with San Antonio, but it's close. That one would make me nervous. And that brings us to the final game that we have not seen in a while, which is the Clippers. Now, the Suns have just been horse crap against the Clippers this season. There's no cute way to say that. It's been ugly. But the Clippers are playing a lot worse lately. They are currently without Kawhi. We don't know, he's supposed to be back Thursday. If that lingered, would it surprise you? He's already clinched the 65 games to be awards eligible. They're pretty much not going to fall below 4. Crazier things have happened than Kawhi Leonard resting. So we'll see. But I think the center rotation is exploitable. I think that could be an opportunity for the Suns' drive and kick offense to really go to another level. And, depth-wise, the Suns should have advantages against the Clippers. Then again, LA's stars, when they are playing full bore, pedal to the metal, and especially PG and Kawhi are, intense, locked in defensively, that team just takes over games. They slow and grind it out and make tough shots and are connected in a way that obviously really screwed the Suns. So that's some of what I have my eyes on. I think breaking even and going 4-4 over their final 8, which they've already won 1 of, was a reasonable goal. They already have 1 in their pocket. So let's say you do beat Cleveland and Minnesota. The Kings are a beatable team. Is that your 4? Could you steal another? That's kind of what I have my eye on. The Suns are going to have a chance in every game. They're a good team. Are they good enough to string this together and finally be consistent? I think that's what this will show us. They have one last chance at home. We'll see what they do. That'll wrap us up for the day. Thank you for finding Locked On Suns wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to hit follow or subscribe. I'll have another show to close out the week with Steven Prajone on Friday, so look forward to that. We'll talk about how this first game of the homestand has looked and more. I'll talk to you guys coming up Friday.